In the early 1960s, cars were predictable, practical, built for families, not for fun. The roads were filled with dull sedans and modest wagons, designed for one purpose: transportation. But behind closed doors at General Motors, a small team of engineers saw an opportunity. They weren't interested in building another commuter car. They had a vision. A car so bold it would defy the rules, challenge convention, and create something the world had never seen before. What they were about to unleash would go on to change the automotive landscape forever. The question is, how did such a revolutionary idea even come to life? This is the story of the Pontiac GTO. Picture this. It's 1963, and the American car market is dominated by practical family sedans and conservative designs. Yet, behind the scenes at Pontiac, a small group of engineers dared to imagine something different. They looked at the mid-size Pontiac Tempest and thought, what if we gave this humble car the power of a racehorse? It was an idea that went against the norms of the era. General Motors, Pontiac's parent company, had strict rules limiting engine sizes in smaller cars. But this team wasn't about to let corporate red tape stop them. Their solution? A loophole. By packaging a massive 389 cubic inch V8 engine as part of an optional performance package, they bypassed the rules and created something extraordinary. But the car needed more than just power. It needed a name. It had to feel bold, exotic, and untouchable. Inspired by Ferrari's elite Gran Turismo Omologato, they chose to call it the GTO. This wasn't just a name, it was a declaration. It said, we're not here to follow the rules, we're here to rewrite them. When the GTO hit dealerships in 1964, it wasn't marketed to the cautious buyer. It was aimed squarely at a younger generation, a generation that didn't want practicality. They wanted speed, power, and something their parents wouldn't approve of. And they got it. Pontiac expected modest sales for their gamble, setting a goal of just 5,000 units. By the end of the year, over 32,000 GTOs were sold, and making it an instant success. The streets weren't just alive with the sound of engines, they were roaring with rebellion. This wasn't just a car, it was the start of a cultural shift. As the 1970s approached, the GTO faced challenges that would disrupt the very foundation of its success. Rising insurance premiums were the first warning sign. Insurers began penalizing high-performance cars like the GTO, making them increasingly expensive for the younger drivers who had fueled its popularity. Then came the government's tightening grip. Stricter emissions regulations forced automakers to scale back engine performance, while new safety standards altered designs. The GTO's signature blend of power and boldness started to feel diluted as horsepower figures dropped to meet compliance. But the most devastating blow arrived with the 1973 oil crisis. Gasoline prices skyrocketed, and fuel economy became a priority for American drivers. A car built on large, gas-hungry V8 engines suddenly felt impractical, even indulgent, in this new reality. Pontiac's response in 1974 was to downsize the GTO, basing it on the compact Chevrolet Nova platform. It was a desperate attempt to adjust to changing consumer preferences, but the result was a car that lacked the soul of the original. Fans turned away, and sales collapsed. By the end of 1974, Pontiac quietly pulled the plug, marking the end of an era. After decades of silence, the GTO name made an unexpected return in 2004. This time, it wasn't a pure Pontiac creation, but an import, rebadged from the Australian-built Holden Monaro. On paper, it seemed like a worthy successor, a 5.7-liter LS 1V8 engine under the hood, producing 350 horsepower, later upgraded to a 6.0-liter LS 2 with 400 horsepower. It was fast, modern, and true to its performance roots. But there was one glaring issue: its design. Critics were quick to call out the bland styling of the new GTO. It lacked the aggressive lines and bold presence that had made the original iconic. Fans who had hoped for a visual homage to the classic models were left disappointed. Without the visual flair, the GTO struggled to connect emotionally with enthusiasts. Despite its impressive performance, the new GTO was met with lukewarm sales. Pontiac managed to sell just over 40,000 units during its 3-year run, a far cry from the roaring success of the 1960s. By 2006, the revival was quietly discontinued, and the GTO's second chance was over. Even though the GTO no longer roars down the streets in production form, its legacy is far from forgotten. For many, it remains the car that defined the muscle car era, a time when raw power, bold design, and unrelenting performance were all that mattered. The GTO helped shape the direction of the American automotive industry. Today, classic GTOs are among the most sought-after vehicles in the collector car market. Pristine examples of models like the 1966 Tri-Power or the 1969 Judge command staggering prices at auctions, often reaching 6 figures. But the GTO's influence isn't confined to collector circles. Its DNA can be seen in every modern muscle car, from the Dodge Challenger to the Ford Mustang. These cars owe their existence to the GTO's pioneering spirit. The muscle car formula, affordable power, aggressive styling, and an emotional connection to the driver, started with Pontiac's bold gamble in 1964. For those who lived through the GTO's glory days, it represents more than just nostalgia. It's a symbol of freedom, ambition, and the thrill of taking risks. And even for those who weren't there to witness it firsthand, the GTO remains a legend, a name spoken with reverence by enthusiasts across generations.